So, Excellencies, Honorable guest speaker, ladies and gentlemen, now parallel session is finished, and here comes the plenary session. Now, I would like to invite the chair of panel discussion as well as panelists to be on the stage on the topic of STEM, environmental education, and inclusiveness through effective mentorship. So our guest speaker will have 1 hour and 30 minutes for the whole discussion, including question and answer. So I would like to give this floor to our guest speaker now. Please welcome. So now we are waiting for our guest speaker, and our guest speaker is contacting and discussing with our backstage moderator with the technical support. So we are waiting for our guest speaker now. Thank you so much. So once again, I would like to invite the chair of panel discussion as well as panelists to be on the stage, and the topic of STEM and environmental education and inclusiveness through effective mentorship. And our guest speaker will have 1 hour and 30 minutes for the whole discussion, including question and answer. So now I would like to give this floor to our guest speaker. Please welcome.
Okay, there we go. Now, if you can hear us, we want to start out by introducing ourselves. I'm Deborah Axel, and I'm here with particular interest in this topic, both because of my own professional background as a student advisor for quite a few years at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And also we're now here as co-directors of the Mir Axel Foundation with absolutely a particular interest in education in Cambodia.
And I'm Miriam Axel. It's a pleasure to be here. We were in Cambodia about 1.5 years ago in 2019, and we absolutely loved having our time there. We're looking forward to being able to come back in better times. But for now, it's fantastic to be here with you. We're wishing you a very good morning, a very good evening. Here in France, it's 2 in the morning. So wherever you are, we're wishing you a good morning and afternoon. I'm now a postdoctoral scholar at Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, at the Center for Environmental Energy and Environmental Policy. And I recently finished my PhD, and I'm remaining a visiting researcher at the Center for Environmental Policy at Imperial College. We're absolutely thrilled to have a wonderful panel with us today, and we're excited to have you all as our audience today.
Yes, and we'd like to start by briefly introducing our panelists and then asking them to give a little bit about their own background before we start asking our questions.
So first, a really big thank you to the organizers. We're honored to be here. And again, we look forward to hopefully being able to see you in person in the future, but we appreciate the opportunity to be able to host this panel now. For today, we have Professor Moran Surf, we have Professor Michal Morbarak, we have Mr. Samkan Kun with us, and Dr. Una McCarthy-Fakri, and Dr. Lauren Robertson joining us on our panel.
And could we ask each of you to just tell us a bit about your own background and your interest in mentorship?
So first, we'd like to ask Professor Michal Morbarak, please. Maybe while
Yeah,
Michal,
now we are assigning Dr. Michael Mosparat to the co-host, so that's why, so that he could unmute herself. Thank you.
Dr. Moorbrock, you may be able to find it on the bottom left-hand side. It's the, yeah.
in the meantime, if that's all right, maybe I'll ask Professor Surf to start with introducing himself and his background briefly.
Sure. Do you hear me well?
Yes, very well. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Okay. So I'm a professor of neuroscience and business. I spend my time between business school, where I teach MBA students and companies how to apply neuroscience in the context of how they make decisions. And I spend the rest of the time trying to understand the brain and how we can make the most of it. And in the context of this evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you are, I, of course, have a lot of students that I mentor formally. And I guess being a professor means that you're also yourself a mentee of someone else constantly. And you interact with this kind of dynamics often of how to give advice, how to help people improve themselves, how to answer questions that are tough, and something that I think will come up today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll move to Dr. Michal Moorbrock. Are you able to, are you unmuted?
Yes, thank you for releasing my mic. It was from the host. Yeah, I'm very pleased to be here. I wish I could be there in person, but maybe next year when things become better around the world. My name is Michal Moorbrock, and I'm a professor at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. I have a joint appointment in the School of Social Work and the Business School, and my research cuts across the two areas, focusing a lot on diversity management from a global perspective. And in that context, I'm interested in mentorship, especially across different identity groups. And my research has dealt with how mentors can help mentees who do not necessarily belong to their identity group. And I'll be happy to talk about it more as the discussion continues.
Thank you. Can we now have Dr. Robertson introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Robertson. Such a pleasure to be here with all of you. Can you hear me well?
Loud and clear, yes.
Excellent. So I finished my PhD at Harvard School of Public Health in May 2018. And quite frankly, it was 100% because of mentorship that allowed me to get there and allowed me to finish and make a transition ultimately to industry. I was a political science major and a Spanish minor and pre-med in undergrad. Came from a family where my mother didn't go to college and was really from a family of modeling, acting, advertising, and sales and business. So nothing related to the sciences at all, except for sort of a tiger mother-father dynamic of wanting me to only be a doctor, a medical doctor. So it was definitely due to mentoring that I have ended up where I am now. And that's really, just to be honest, that's really what I enjoy most, is peer-to-peer mentoring and mentoring across industries, particularly for women and people of color. So I'm really excited to be here and to hear really the discussion and be a part of that, and hopefully serve as an ongoing resource if I can be, whether that's in the form of sponsorship, mentorship, or connecting others to people who are more informed than I am.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're thrilled to have you here. And now can we ask Mr. Kun to introduce himself, please?
Hello, hello. Hello. Good evening from Lowell, Massachusetts, the eastern corner of Massachusetts here. but Lo is again is just for your information, is the first planned industrial city of America. So talking about the topic this afternoon or the morning in Cambodia, it is a topic. I am Som Khan Kearns. I was born and raised in Cambodia before the war. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, just like many Cambodian Americans here, I survived the killing field of Cambodia for that, 4 years, and then prior to that, and then after that, end up in a refugee camp for another 4 years before coming to America on November 5th, 1984. And by then the school years already start. And as a 20 years old, who had no formal education due to the killing field in Cambodia from 1975, and until I start, college, the formal education here, again in the spring of 1985. So you can imagine that those 4 years with the Khmer Rouge and the 4 years in the refugee camp. But I believe in education, and later on become the first person in the family who graduated from college in engineering, in electrical and computer engineering, and then went to work for a short period of time. But the calling, there's a calling that I need to do something bigger and better, and that is to start working for the community. Since majority of my fellow Cambodian refugees here with not much support. And then being educated here in America and a survivor from Cambodia, from the killing field and all that, I felt that I can play a better bridge, bridging the community member to the to American culture, to American society here, as I have done so for myself and also my family of 9, believe it or not, with 7 brothers and sisters. Myself is the second child, but the oldest son in the family, and 2 additional cousins whose parents, get killed. Parents get killed in the Khmer Rouge, so we adopt them and we brought them here to the U.S. as well. And then the rest of the history is pretty much working and trying to re-establish new life here in America. Currently, I work as a educational advisor for a trio educational talent search with a community college. It's Middlesex Community College here. I start my formal education in America, with the community college, and I end up working for a community college. But we have a partnership program with the Low Public School. And Low Valley, as you all know or may have known, is home to the second largest of Cambodian American in the country. The second one with, after Long Beach, California. So there's a lot of need, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of things to be done, particularly regarding to promoting education in general, but in particular in STEM, and being educated in engineering myself. So I put that into good use. And again, I can see that later on. I'm married with 4 children with my wife, who's a fellow refugee from the killing field as well. We end up meeting each other here after 10 years apart, and we have beautiful children together. And then we work here in Law, live in Law, work in Law.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, it's an honor to have you here with us. And now can we ask Dr. McCarthy-Vakri to introduce herself, please?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. My name is Una McCarthy-Vakri. I am so delighted to join this session. Thank you so much for inviting me. I feel quite honored to be part of this panel. I am calling in from Cambodia. So I am a director of a local NGO here called STEM Education Organization for Cambodia. And we have 2 of our main activities each year. One of them is STEM Sisters Cambodia, which we founded maybe 2 years ago now. We've run through 2 cycles of it. It is at its heart a mentoring program. It's a very special program that connects professional women working in STEM fields, who we call our pro sisters, to university students studying STEM, girls. They are our big sisters, And then we have high school girls who are our little sisters. And we have them all connected within a mentoring program. So maybe later on we can get into more detail of that. But that is my experience, and my input today will be from a perspective of creating and managing a mentoring program on the ground in Cambodia. And then one of our other main activities is the annual Cambodia STEM Festival. That last year we committed very determinedly to deliver it as Cambodia's first green STEM festival. So we have environmental education component there. We ran environmental education throughout the whole festival. We estimate that we saved 58,000 pieces of single-use plastic from being used over 2 days. So in terms of the topic today, we can touch on environmental education and mentoring within a developing country, Cambodia. So thank you very much. I myself, my personal background, I am a chemist. So my background is pure science, but I am a passionate educator, and throughout my career, I have worked in many different fields, but throughout, I've had a huge interest and passion for education. So yeah, that's me. Thank you so much for including me, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists and to all of our, nearly 200 participants. I think it's quite amazing to be able to have people from Cambodia, from the United States, from really across the globe. And it's exciting to have such a wide and diverse spread of participants. We really thank you for being here, and thank you to our panelists and to the organizers for your participation and your time. I think we'd like to just jump into questions and answers, if that's all right with our panel. So I think we'll start with a question of what does mentorship mean to you, and what's the importance both personally and professionally? How has the role of mentorship helped you advance in your career, and how has it helped you help others? And I think if it's all right, we'll continue with the same order that we started with, beginning with Professor Cerf.
So I would say that like everyone, I can, name at least one mentor for every important event in my life. And I think that this is an indication that you remember kind of those people who inspired you and kind of paved the road for you. I think that the kind of thoughts that came to mind when I thought about like the mentors that I had in my life and what I took from them is that you can have mentors in a classical way, someone who you define as a mentor, they define you as a mentee, and you kind of go on the journey together. That's one type, the classical type, the easy one. There are also mentors that don't know they are mentors, or that don't kind of formally take on the role. And I think that I had a few of those, and I at some point I might tell them that they're the inspiration, or but in many ways their mentorship was either in the form of like mentoring someone else that I kind of took on and learned from and kind of piggybacked and so on. There's also a kind of niche type, but negative ones. Sometimes you have negative role models that become in a way your mentors, because you kind of ask, what was the mistake you made, or how did you kind of, what would you do now if you have to do it again, and how would you fix that? I think that they're kind of, in terms of what the audience wants to know, and I'll leave it for the other panelists, and unless you want to ask me afterwards, there's, I think, two different kind of things that the listeners should think about, which is if they're mentors, how to navigate that, and if they're mentees. I think that the job of the person who is being mentored is also important, something to note, because you navigate things in many ways, and you determine how the mentorship is gonna go. The two things I'm gonna end with in one sentence each is that one thing that is important in a relationship is also to know how to end it and when to stop it, and kind of how to not be totally kind of a person that continuously is under someone else's advice, but also at some point says, okay, I now wanna for a second take ownership. And I guess the second one, that's the last sentence, is that the take home advice, that if everything disconnects right now and I want someone to take from this session together, is that when you ask for advice, you're not weak. It's a strong thing to ask for advice. People love giving advice, and the mentors are going to appreciate you for choosing them as someone to give advice. This is kind of something that people sometimes think, okay, well, I don't want to ask for advice. It's going to burden someone else, so I wouldn't kind of feel comfortable. I think that's the first and the most important thing I wanted to kind of have everyone leave this kind of gathering from, that it's good to do it.
Thank you so much. I think both the idea of mentors is not necessarily being somebody that you choose, not necessarily being a conscious decision to be mentored or to choose a mentee, but rather kind of coming about in sort of different ways. I think it really kind of resonates with me, and especially I think if I can move the question on to Professor Morbarak, who, if I can give a little bit of a personal aside, is my cousin. And growing up, I sort of, my father always talked about Michal as being this wonderful model. And I think that this idea of mentorship is coming from all kinds of different places really resonates with me, because I think of you, Michal, as a mentor, and I always have from being all of 2 years old. So it means a lot to be here and have this conversation and to talk about this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Miriam. And you actually take me to my first point that is very personal, but also general. I think that mentoring is a two-way street. And so every mentor needs to know and be open to learning from their mentee. And it's both a responsibility and the pleasure of being a mentor. And I would connect that to my experience as a mentee during my course of studies, especially the PhD, when my research went more into the business direction, business management, and all my mentors were men who did not share my experiences as an immigrant to the United States. And those who took the time to get to know me were much better mentors than those who did not. And I'm hoping that we'll devote some time to that aspect of mentorship that I've experienced personally and inspired me in my relationships with mentees, that you have to understand that it goes both ways and that it's a mutual journey that you take together with your mentee, and you both grow and change. The assumption of many mentors, erroneously so, is that all the wisdom is entrusted to them and the mentee is just there to soak it. And that's a wrong assumption. As we continue in the discussion, I can give some examples from my own experience. But I think that the key to success is understanding that very fundamental issue, that it's a two-way street and that's a journey that you take together with your mentee.
I would like to follow up a little bit with what Professor Morbarak just said. I think it's a really interesting point that the background and common experience matters tremendously in mentorship. And I'd like to ask Mr. Kuhn to talk about his experience with the community in Lowell, Massachusetts, that I know has many young people who are children of refugees from Cambodia, and how he uses that experience in mentoring this particular group of young people.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. Well, that's a really great question. I have not thought about it, about being the mentor, but again, that is something that is new that I recently, adopted. I used to think that, we'll do whatever it takes, to help people. I was being an older brother in a family of 9. You do whatever it takes to help yourself, to help your younger brother and sister to achieve the education without even thinking, am I doing the mentoring? What I'm doing is I'm leading by the example. So if I really want my brother and sister to really finish the college, I need to do it first. So that's what that's what the old way of thinking. That's what I'm doing. And the same thing with the community here. And as you can see that, the lowest is home to the second largest of Cambodian American, population in the country. But, our programs serve not only just Cambodian, pretty much everyone else who are, from first generation, meaning that, if their parents do not have any 4-year college degree, whether they're born here, whether they, then we qualify for the program. So in a sense, it's really about doing what it takes, to do that. And I know that this job is a great job. It's huge. You cannot do alone. Every year we serve about over 700 students from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade, and then go on to college and university. And of course, not all of these are all in STEM. So what we do is that out there we emphasize, we really integrate it on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, semester basis. It's really to emphasize about helping youth, about helping the student per grade, all different grade, about emphasize about working on their improve their math skill, improve their science skill, and particularly for women, for younger girls who do not have a role model at home, do not have mentor at home, so they have a hard time let alone thinking about engineering. So one of the way that we do is really to reach out, across the educational institution here in the local area, and then ask them to be mentored, for our student. So say for example, we have a program with UMass, Law, the engineering student, both the undergraduate and the graduate engineering student, to work with our our student. And to sort of not only just but to formalize some sort of relationship, to get to know each other, to really work together, to really encourage that these are the kind of thing that is that's being done at the college, and they too, as a mentee or as a younger student, that they can picture themselves to be in that environment, to be working that, to be in working environment, to actually pursue their college degree, despite the fact that they may come from a low socioeconomic background. And that they too can work on this. And of course, there's a diversity within the university itself that have girl or female from different background, including people of their own background as well as other as well. So in a way, it's really the underlining is that that really to encourage you, to support them, and so that yes, you can be like that. Yes, you can pursue your engineering degree. Yes, you can do any other degree, any other major that you can be done. And on a semester basis, we really emphasize. So we run additional program to support youth to become more successful, despite the fact that English may not be of course English is their second language and so forth. So we want to make sure that they they have the support built in after school program, homework program, even we even help with the math program as well, so that they can pass the standardized test, which is the MCAS. It stands for Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment Test. For every student to be able to graduate with a high school diploma, they need to pass this MCAS, and it's including math, science, and also language art as well. We, our program, work on 2 out of the 3, which is, the math and the science. So we hire, a licensed teacher to help teach per grade, whether 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and all the way to 10th grade. 12th grade, sorry. And it's make sure that they have additional support to make sure they'll be able to, to pass these tests. But at the same time, also, have a lot of different programs to have the college field trip, college tour, make make them feel that it's really comfortable that they too can achieve this. So in a way, it's sort of the underlines, like and then of course on and knowing what college require for them to be successful. They know ahead. They started since 6th grade. So per every grade, keep on emphasizing, keep on encouraging. And then, when 12th grade, of course, we also help them, with the college, application, college research, essay writings, and financial aid, applications and scholarship application, and so forth and so forth. So we really work along the way, with them. All right. So that's something that I find it to be really, really helpful. Not only just the theory, but also the application, the actuality that they work with college students. So we have the high school then help mentoring the middle school student, and then the college student mentoring the high school student, and on and on and on and on. And that is a unique situation where we feel it's really, really successful, because we felt that the younger mentee or the younger mentor who just a little bit older than the mentee can have a greater positive, can have a greater impact. It's not like, oh yeah, you are an old man, you know what you're talking. I mean, you've been doing that. It's your career. That's what you do. That's what you get paid to do the job, right? So you can have all the theory in the world, but when we match them up with the younger mentor, right, with a college student, where there's a high school student, and who are good in math and science and so forth and so forth, we feel that is more productive. We feel that it's more, they make a greater impact, and not only that, they form a relationship where they can where they can get a support in addition to just that regular meeting after school, or they can form a longer relationship, and therefore ultimately help them to achieve the college education that they want, and that their parents want, and that we all want. So that's the ultimate goal. So I find it to be really, really and for me it's a pleasure seeing that, because it's to me it's like a sweet revenge, right? After what the Khmer Rouge have done to me for, so I feel that this is the it's not a job, but it's something that that it's a reward. Every year you see hundred and hundred go on to college, whether they start with a 2-year college first, or they go directly to a 4-year college, or they go to Harvard, or they go to MIT. We have a few students actually doing that. It's just a big reward. It's just amazing. Just like what I did when I first came, with proper English, and just go directly to a 2-year college, and I get a lot of support from there as well. So I felt that this is a giving back. This is what America have given to me, and it's my duty, it's my responsibility to give it back. And without even thinking about, oh, am I a mentor or mentor? But I learned a lot from the younger kid as well, from the children as well, because every day they come up with different questions and challenge. So in a way, it's a both way, a learning process, and I find that to be rewarding, most rewarding profession after all. Yeah. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. No, I mean, you've touched on so many incredibly important topics and ideas. I mean, both this notion of peer mentorship and the fact that mentorship doesn't necessarily have to be, in a hierarchical structure, and this idea of students helping students, as well as this kind of idea of daring to dream, and students who want to go on to have a university education, or maybe are charting completely uncharted territory and are the first in their family or in their peer cohort. And this idea of, and I think it kind of comes back full circle to what Professor Cerf was speaking about this idea that asking for help and sort of, seeking mentorship and seeking guidance and seeking advice is not a sign of weakness. If anything, it's the opposite. It's recognizing that you have something that you're trying to achieve, and identifying people in your life who can help you, who can help guide you get there. And I think that's what's so, I mean, at least I think for us, that's what makes this topic so exciting, is that mentorship is so multifaceted. It has so many different aspects. It's not a one-way street, as Professor Morbark was saying as well. It really is it's a relationship, and I think it's a really important and nuanced relationship. And I think it's something that deserves to be highlighted. So I guess with this, I'd like to move to Dr. Robertson and hear a little bit more about your experience with mentorship and mentoring others, working with university students, and what the role of mentorship means for you today.
Great. I think so many good things have been already said. And so in an effort to not be redundant, I'm going to just kind of add a couple little flavors. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about this recently and thinking about the difference between mentorship, which I'll define here as sort of advice giving, versus sponsorship, which I really think of as advocating for connections or grants or positions, like for candidacy for things, making those connections for people. And I think this is, I'm not saying that one is more important than the other, and I certainly don't think that, but I think particularly for women and people of color, sponsorship is often lacking. And for people that don't, it's not just women and people of color, it's also people, who maybe don't have a lot of sort of family connections or, sort of wealth or sort of low resource environments, right? And low resource environments can be anywhere. I mean, anywhere worldwide. And so I think this is extremely important. This is really, and a key thing here too, is that it doesn't, again, have to be hierarchical, but that it really can be peer-to-peer, right? So it's about, identifying a characteristic or a skill set that a friend of yours has or a classmate of yours has, and saying, hey, you know what, I know someone else that has this job opening or this internship, and I think you'd be really great, or I really would just like you to meet this person and speak to this person because you guys have, some really common interests, and I think you guys could kind of, hammer out these ideas together, whether it's a business idea or someone has sort of, gone that path before. So I think this is really important. And the other thing I want to bring in here is this idea of holistic, really a holistic relationship as a mentor and mentoree. So not just taking sort of one aspect of the person. I think this happens a lot in the sciences where people can get kind of pigeonholed, and it's sort of like, okay, well, this is your skill set. This is what your past has been with classes and with, say, research experience and where you want to go. But I don't really have to take into consideration who you are as a person or your family dynamics or your financial situation or anything else. And I think this is absolutely critical. I think as both mentors and mentorees, we really can't lose sight of these, and you should never feel like you're being forced to do that in any of your mentor-mentoree relationships. I think, as other people have said already, some of the best mentor-mentoree relationships I've had is for mentors that have really seen me as much of a holistic person as possible, because they've been able to give me really targeted and personal advice that wasn't just like, oh yeah, like just do that. And it's like, well, what about all these other situations that are sort of in the way that I need to be taking into mind and calculating. And then another key thing here is, we're talking here about sort of key topic here is, right, is the environment, climate, sustainability. And I want to bring in this idea of a dynamic and yet also sustainable mentor-mentoree relationship. And I think, again, this harkens back to having a holistic perspective of your mentor and the mentoree. So one mentor, just like I guess I would say, like, one love is not necessarily going to fulfill every single aspects of your personality. So really finding different mentors, whether that's hierarchical, different professors at different stages in your life, whether that's friends, whether that's family members, whether it's people that you meet randomly at conferences like this and keep in touch with, whether this is peer-to-peer. Relationships ebb and flow like any other mentor-mentoree relationships are no different. But I think it's so critical to keep in touch, and especially as a mentoree, to update your mentors, to stay in touch, to let them know what you're doing, what you're excited about, what you've been up to, not just when you're quote unquote like doing amazing work and you're getting recognized, but also in some of your downtimes when you want to kind of talk out ideas and sort of regroup and find like that reconnection with someone that saw something in you before. So I would just, and I think this is really big too when we're thinking about COVID time, and people are much more connected now in some ways. And one thing I would say would be, if you if you're inspired by, any one of us on this panel today, drop us a note, find us on LinkedIn. Like I'll pass on my contact. If you guys want to start a Slack platform discussion about mentor-mentorees and share this, I'm more than willing to do this and help connect people. So, it's crazy times for all of us, but I think we can share learnings across industries, and they're not all going to work for every single one of you. And I'm not going to be able to connect with every single one of you in the most meaningful way, but maybe I'll be able to provide one little pearl of experience, or connect you with someone else that could be a great mentor for you.
Thanks. That was great. And I'd like to ask Dr. McCarthy-Fakhri about peer-to-peer mentoring, and to tell us something about your experience with STEM Sisters and what's worked, what you've learned from the experience that could be helpful for the audience.
Absolutely. I'm very happy to share more about that. May I just give you a little personal input into what mentoring means to me first, so that you know where I'm coming from, and then I'll move on to STEM Sisters. There's so many amazing things have been said already. I'm not going to go into detail. For me, mentoring is just can make such a difference in anybody's life. It's the difference between just having a career or thriving in a career. So I think that mentoring is a huge topic that we actually have the responsibility to put in place. I feel I am where I am by chance, because I was lucky enough to be born with an older sister who did a career in science also. So she, from an early age, was like a mentor for me. But I feel very strongly that where I am should be achievable through for everybody. It shouldn't be just by chance that you have a role model from an early age. Everyone should be able to benefit from what a mentor can introduce into their lives. So I also fully agree with the journey between a mentor and mentee being a joint journey. I find people I have ended up mentoring have helped me so much in terms of how I look at things, how I need to dig deep to find the right advice for them, which changes my perspective on my journey too. So it is certainly a journey together. With respect to STEM Sisters Cambodia, so just to recap a tiny bit, we have a system where we've got professional women connected to university students, our big sisters, and they are connected to little sisters in high school. So our program is designed to, they are connected through Facebook Messenger. Facebook in Cambodia is the main communication method, and this was an important part of our program, and we built it into the program that all our resources are available on Facebook, and the communication is happening through Facebook. But what is important is that we run 8-week programs, and at the beginning of the program, we take a group of what we call our core participants, and we put them through a leadership academy. The Pro Sisters and the Big Sisters are given mentoring training by specialists who are specializing in training Khmer women in Khmer with soft skills in mentoring and coaching. And then also all 3 tiers, Pro Sisters, Big Sisters, and Little Sisters, were also given leadership skills, because the Little Sisters are tasked with launching a STEM club in their school using their leadership skills, and with the support of the Big and Pro Sisters. So in terms of peer-to-peer mentoring, it's I would say our experience is the mentoring between Big and Little Sisters. So it's slightly just an older student to a younger student. And it was incredibly successful, because each Big Sister mentored for little sisters within a small Facebook Messenger chat group. And so even if they were geographically not in the same place, they first had the Leadership Academy physically all together, and then they split off. The little sisters went back to their school, and they were then mentored over an 8-week period by their big sister. And this relationship of big sister to little sister was really quite special. Even the word sister here, sister all over the world is a strong word, but sister in Cambodia can mean any female to any female. Can be your sister. I can see Mr. Samkam nodding there. So the word sister here was very important to us, and that sisterhood really came through very strong in our program. And even though it was a relatively short program, I believe after the program ended, the big sister to little sister connection still they stayed in contact. Another important note is that midway through our program, they had a second face-to-face meeting. So I do believe, even though it's more difficult in COVID times, the beginning of the relationship would be wonderful to have a physical face-to-face meeting, especially when you're talking about young students. But then to maintain that connection, that can happen virtually very easily through social media platforms. But a little injection of a physical connection every now and then would also be of benefit. But I do believe a physical face-to-face meeting at the beginning sets it up for success. I'll also mention that we brought this program to Ratanakiri, a very remote area in Cambodia, and we brought that to Ratanakiri just at the very beginning of COVID. So we managed to do the face-to-face meeting just like literally 2 weeks before the school shut down. But we had that meeting in place, and our big sisters were able to travel back to Phnom Penh, where they were from, and they kept in touch with the little sisters in Ratanakiri, hundreds of miles away throughout the COVID pandemic school shutdown period. So that was really, we were incredibly lucky to get that physical meeting in at the beginning. But it really was a test of the program. And I'm glad to say that it did persist, the connection did persist throughout the weeks.
That's really interesting, and that actually touched on what I wanted to ask about the challenges for mentorship in the era of COVID, and also specific to Cambodia, the particular challenges of remote locations and distances. And it sounds like this has been a challenge in your mentorship program, Una. But it sounds like you found ways of managing it.
We have, because if you persist, you will always find a solution. So just to give a little bit more detail, for that particular program that began just before the COVID pandemic hit, we managed that first physical meeting, but we weren't able to do the second physical meeting, which is normally midway through our program. So we adapted everything and created, we had thankfully some teachers in Ratanakiri who were able to help us. And we managed to find a solution because the students were allowed meet up in groups of 10 or less. So we split our whole participant group into groups of 10, and we had them separated into different rooms in a school, and we adapted all our learning resources into videos. We had major trouble with internet connection to communicate with them, but we basically throughout 2 days, we had a combination of Zoom, Telegram, Messenger, WhatsApp, and normal phone call, and using 5 different methods, alternating between them. When one would stop, we'd switch to another, and we did it. And we pre-recorded videos were very powerful because the students, we could send them by file, they would watch them, and then it wasn't so reliant on the internet connection, and we could have a quick chat about the video that they had just watched. But it was our big sisters in the video. So again, it was the same people that they were connected to in a pre-recorded video, and then a quick chat that was not too reliant on internet connection to this rural area.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it also sort of touches on, if it's all right with our panelists, I'd like to go to, because I know often in these sort of these Zoom conferences, there are a million questions that come in at the end, and we don't really get a chance to take audience questions. So I think one of the questions that came in from Melvin Miranda in the Philippines is that most of the time in work settings, the usual identified mentor-mentee relationships are more of the superior subordinate type of relationship. And do you agree that it can also be subordinate superior relationship and subordinate superior mentoring? And I think this kind of touches on a little bit what's been discussed today, is that mentorship takes a variety of forms and can sort of come from unexpected places. So I'm wondering if we can pose this question to our panelists about perhaps a time when you've had a relationship with a mentee, or where you found a mentor, and something that has sort of come from perhaps maybe a bit more of an unexpected place, and what this sort of two-way street of mentorship means to you. And I think if it's all right, we'll go back to the same order and start with Professor Cerf.
Sure, I'll try to be quick because I know that there's so many of us, and I'm afraid that. So I would say that we all have a mental model when we start kind of going into a relationship of how the relationship is going to look like, and it's true for mentors. I have one in mind, Yoda. That's the one I imagine. When I imagine a mentor, I imagine this little creature that tells you, give you the answer. But that's not always how it looks. Like sometimes it's Yoda, and he's just a creature that has been here for 900 years and just knows all the answers. But sometimes it's a person that's been there a week before you, not an expert, but has gone through the same kind of challenge that you're about to go to and can tell you. So I think this idea that it's always like the most senior person in the pyramid who is the mentor for the top, the tier below, and so on, could miss that sometimes a mentor could be a peer who is not higher than you, but has experienced something. And I think that when we come to think of mentors, I think it's critical to understand what they're mentoring us for. I think that if you come and you know exactly, I need help in this thing, if you can even articulate it to them, then I think you create a relationship. And it's not unlikely that the person who is your mentor in situation 1 is going to be your mentee in situation 2. So it's not that kind of it creates a hierarchy that it's forever, that's the person who gives kind of like Yoda, but it's a relationship that could change a lot in the course of the journey that you work together. And I think that if you ask for personal ones, I had a PhD advisor, who's a good example, who was by definition my mentor when I came, both for my academic life, but also for a lot of my personal life, because we shared 5 years together at the PhD program where he was the responsible adult. But in the course of those 5 years, he realized that I'm much better than him in some things. In this case, he was not great in communicating, like in kind of giving talks and so on. And I was trained for that for many years. And he came to me and he said, look, I'm your boss on this thing, give me your advice. And suddenly it changed the dynamics between us. And suddenly I was his, Yoda for certain things. And I think that to think of mentors as like a lifetime thing, and it's sometimes that is creating hierarchy, could miss out something. And I think this is maybe something that is important for everyone to think about.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Professor Moore-Barak, I wanted to ask, following up a little bit what the idea of distance learning, and this is kind of a combination of 2 questions. This is both following up on what we heard in the panel previously, and also a question that's come in from the audience about whether the question from the audience is, do you think that e-learning is just temporary, or can it go on even after the COVID-19 pandemic is flattened? But that's a piece of the question. But what I'm also really interested in is whether you think that with e-learning, distance learning, and distance mentoring, is that helpful for more justice in learning, in more equality in mentorship relationships, or is that destructive?
Thank you. Very interesting, but I'd like to take first the point that was mentioned earlier. I read the very good question on the chat, and I thought it raised a really important aspect of mentorship. So let me take that briefly, and then I'll respond to your question. I'll be a little bit contrarian, and I'll say that not every relationship from which you learn something is a mentorship relationship. So we can think of mentorship maybe on some kind of a continuum that you can have more than one mentor, but not every relationship is a mentorship. And I think it needs several components to make it a real mentorship. And these components are, it needs to be someone that can enrich you and you can learn from. It needs to be someone who gets to know you as a whole person. And it needs to be someone who will be your cheerleader or your champion, someone who will rejoice in your successes and give you energy to continue on your journey. So to me, mentorship is more holistic than any other relationships that you learn from. And I would add, the question was, can a supervisee be a mentor of the supervisor? And I would say that, first of all, I don't think that in an ideal world, a supervisor is a good mentor, because that would mix the mentorship relationship with more administrative responsibility and supervision, and will tie the supervisee's hands in that they will not be able to open and share information and will be hindered in their learning experience from the mentor. So this is very briefly about that, because I thought that the question was really excellent and very good in invoking some important elements. I would add one more thing to that. We find in the modern workplace that some relationships, some supervisors are younger than the supervisee, especially in high-tech companies. And I did some consulting in a high-tech company. And because of their technical skills, they become sort of mentors to older people because they can guide them in the process. And that process could be reversed at some times when the supervisee has different information. So all of that is pretty complicated. To your question about e-learning, in my school at the University of Southern California, we started with e-learning on a very special platform with Zoom and asynchronous material about, I would say, 10 years ago. So we were among the first. And because we sustained it for many years before COVID, my perspective on that is that it is here to stay. We have excellent experience, but you need to know how to do it well. It's not just putting material online and having Zoom meetings. You have to plan it in a way that is different from a classroom experience. You can't just take your class materials and put them online. Advantages of distance learning is that you can learn from other people. Look at us. We are an example of how that process can happen. And to me, as a researcher of global relationships, it's wonderful and very enriching. At the same time, we need to keep in mind that we are social beings. Humans are social beings. We like to be in the physical presence of other people. And we need to find ways to augment that learning experience that is online with real human contact. If you can't get it in the online experience and get it in other environments that will enrich you as a human being, create a learning group of people who live in your neighborhood. When we can, after COVID, this would be really, really important to augment those relationships and create them as more enriching for all of us as human beings? Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the points that you bring up, both the fact that, a mentor is somebody that you can, number one, learn from, number two, really gets to know you and invest the time in building this relationship. And the third point is, as a cheerleader and a champion for you, I think kind of links to this question of what's the role of a mentor in times of COVID when optimism is really hard. It's really hard to sort of encourage people. I think there's a lot of, social and psychological and physical impediments in terms of connecting with people. And it makes it, it adds an additional burden. And at the same time, really encouraging somebody to go into a field that might be a bit scary for them, might be a bit more challenging. It seems like there's a double dose of optimism and kind of cheerleading that's needed in the context of COVID. So I guess I'm just wondering if we can combine these two questions together and turn this to Dr. Robertson in terms of this idea of mentorship, whether it's from unexpected places and this kind of malleable nature of mentorship and not necessarily a hierarchical one, and how that kind of works, as well as the role of mentorship moving forward in a COVID and hopefully soon post-COVID world.
Yeah, I love what's been said already. I would say, I think it's going to be really important to share learnings across industries and kind of try them out, do some beta testing. What I mean by that is someone may, give you an idea to do something or how to investigate a mentor or mentoree relationship. You try it out and it absolutely does not work. But I think, as was said earlier by Dr. Falkari, if you persist, then, you'll find a way sort of through it. So perhaps looking towards industries where people have been remote for a little bit longer, and that being within the physical presence wasn't such a prescriptive requirement for that type of relationship, I think it's important. So looking to things like, more theoretical or computational roles, or where things were more distance and, processing of data was often further from the source, or things like, the tech industry in general, where people are often behind screens and working at different hours, and that sort of flexibility of lifestyle and work in terms of finding a mentor-mentoree relationship has already been practiced. So related to that as well, I think, is driving down into how do we identify a mentor. I think one good way to do this is to think about one thing that you want and not try to think of multiple things you want from one person, from one mentor, right? It's almost like delivering a message on a PowerPoint slide, right? So have one message. We'll have one sort of ask, and really make sure that you do your due diligence. And what I mean by that is researching that person, finding out what they've done, and really being able to take a step back and identify why that person could potentially be a good mentor for you, or why you could be a good mentoree for that person. And then, as far as the reciprocity of the mentoree and mentor, something that my PhD advisor always used to say, and I don't think I got it until many years later, I was a little slow on this one and probably many other things, but was the idea of like, okay, well, I brought you on, like I'm paying for this, but like also like, where's your excitement? Where's your energy? And it was, I kind of took it on like, oh, like I'm supposed to like also be this type of personality to sort of entertain you. But no, what I realized that sentiment was this idea of, youth and the mentoree, the youth of the mentoree, whether it's, they're actually younger or not, just sort of youth of any of a sense. It's really the fresh ideas, it's the creativity, it's the excitement, it's the exuberance. And don't forget that the mentor, like they feed off of that. They're looking for that. That's what keeps them going. You inspire them with your discussions, with how you see things and how you sort of make those disparate and unique connections. So really hearkening back to what was said earlier about this idea of, sort of peer-to-peer, or being able to sort of switch those roles, or not feeling like you're in a subordinate position when you're asking for help. I mean, you're bringing a lot to the table. And so I think also identifying that, you know, what do you want from someone, and what can you bring, and allowing that to be fluid.
I'd like to ask Mr. Kuhn a question about mentorship that's maybe not in a traditional sense that educators think of professionals within the community, but how about members of the community who aren't formally part of a school district or part of the university? Is there a role for that could be non-traditional knowledge or elders within the community?
Yeah, that is a really great question. Well, in the school setting here, pretty much all of the teachers pretty much act as not only just not just educator but also the mentor as well. Whereas in the community, in particular, those who had achieved their profession, whether it's in engineering, whether it's in math and science, or in technologies, or in accounting, or whatever the professions, they are more or less are being asked to be a sort of role model, sort of advisor, unofficially, like be a role model, be someone that that can make themselves available for the younger generation, to emulate, to want to be allies and so forth. This is also happening in my own family as well. So later on, I had learned that my younger brother got inspired by what I have done, and the academic achievement, and he wanted to give him the inspiration to wanted to achieve his education as well, not in the same field, but sort of what, if my older brother can do it, with all of the barrier that he had, why not me? So that's like the dare, right? So in the same way in the community too, in the same way is that so all these a role model more or less, with and now there's more and more, not only just within the educational context, but also in the civic environment. Someone run for the city council and get elected, right? It gives the expression, what if Mr. so and so can do that, is Miss so and so can do that, what, I really want to do it, so I can do better. I want to be someone like that, or better than that. It gives the hope, it gives the inspiration. Someone who looks familiar to them, someone who comes from their background, someone who speak their language, who understand where they come from. It's really give them that hope, give them understanding, give them extra aspiration, right? And then in the school setting itself, if the teacher from, let's say, certain ethnic group, a certain background, say for example, there's more Cambodian American teaching math, right? And of course, we hope that maybe the next generation there'll be more teaching liberal art and teaching history and so forth. But now, a majority of minority group, right, teaching math and science, because those are the two subjects that tend to be like popular within the immigrant community. So I have a lot of friends who are teaching math from 5th grade all the way to high school, and of course to at our college as well, teaching math. So it gives the younger student about, hey, what, this is really, I can do that as well. I have the aspiration to be like that. That if the opportunity to like invitation, like an extra encouragement. It's not a direct mentorship, but someone look it up to them like, okay, you know what, is such and such can do it. So say for example, now there's there's a woman who just got elected as a state representative, right? It represents my district, right, the 17th district, and this is the first in the country, right here. Here in Laos, right? So it gives that it gives other young lady, other young student, other young immigrant or minority group about what, I want to represent my community. I want to do something extra for my community as well. in addition to that, all of the, let's say the assistant teacher, right, teaching along with the mainstream teacher, also act as a mentor as well, because they understand the language, they understand the culture of, the community member. So being bilingual, being trilingual, being bicultural, it give them the ability to be more effective, to act not only just as mentor, but also, as an extra, role model to help, connected not only to the student, but also to the to the parent, as well, because the parent still have, a challenge of the language barrier, the cultural barrier. So this is a great way of this sort of official or non-official kind of mentorship or role model, you want to say that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I think if it's all right, if we can move on to ask Una, I think touching on this role of culture and language, and this notion of sort of non-traditional mentorship. And if it's all right, again, thank you so much to our audience for posing questions, and please do keep them coming. I know we're nearing towards the end of the panel. But one of the questions was what should be the attributes of a mentor to sustain the responsibilities in supporting the mentee's success? So if it's possible to maybe combine these two and sort of touch on what are the attributes that really help lead to a long-term mentorship relationship. And this question is for Dr. Fakhri.
Apologies, I had an electricity cut. So, so I have not been here for the last few minutes, but I think I just caught the end of that question was, what are the attributes, was it?
Yes, yeah, I was just connecting it to what Mr. Kern was saying about the importance of culture, shared language, and these sort of common attributes, and mentorship is not necessarily taking the traditional role, and beyond that, kind of expanding to what are the qualities that you think made for a good mentorship relationship, and what are the qualities that are particularly important for a long-term sustaining relationship.
Right, well, that's actually a huge question, so I will try and summarize it. So cultural sensitivity is very important. I think I want to emphasize that when we designed our program, we brought in some young university students here in Cambodia to help us. And some of them I would consider as my mentee now, and I would be their mentor. And their input was incredibly important to our program. And I think that they know that, and that has given them huge courage and confidence in standing up to tasks that are requested of them. So they were very, because they were on board from the beginning, because obviously I'm a foreigner here, because they were on board from the beginning, we designed the program with cultural awareness built in. And I do feel it's very important in the context of Cambodia that the role models and mentors that we're promoting are Cambodian and Khmer speaking. And that needs to be inbuilt into every program. Because the Khmer language is at the point of needing protection, I feel, because most of the resources out there, especially in STEM, are in English. So we need to protect the Khmer language, but also bring along English so that they can advance their knowledge. So I feel like it seems like I'm going off the topic there, but I'm not, because it's all intertwined with who your mentor is and who your mentee, how best to serve the mentee. The attributes that I feel are most important on the mentor side are obviously the knowledge and experience in the field that the mentor is hoping to progress in, but more so than anything, it's the mindset of the mentor and whether they're open to having this journey together as a mentor-mentee, where I'm just checking you can hear me. Yes? Yes. Okay, thank you. They need to be ready and open to a journey together, because I feel it's the back and forth interactions between the mentor and mentee that will set it up for success. So the mentor needs to be open to the fact that the mentee is going to change their own direction too, and that should be the way. And so the attributes for the mentor should be, the mindset must be open. They must have the right expertise in terms of knowledge, but it's not the most important. The mindset is more important, and the time to commit, and the dedication, that this is a kind of an agreement that you put some effort into. They need to be ready to put some effort in. So I believe all those attributes are essential for a successful mentor-mentee partnership. Partnership is important, partnership, rather than just connection.
I think you bring up a
Does
lot
that
of
answer
really
your question?
points. And I think that's, yeah, I think both the idea of this being a partnership and the investment in time, as well as the idea of sort of communication both across, across cultures and across potentially different fields is particularly important. And I think especially in, in today's world where there are so many opportunities and fields are becoming more and more increasingly multidisciplinary, and we're incorporating, which I think is a really positive, excellent thing, diverse perspectives. And at the same time, it really requires a kind of a particular, sense of sensitivity and understanding, and being able to really focus on, what is it that I can give to somebody who might not necessarily see things the way that I do. And I guess from there, I'd like to kind of move this question, present it to Professor Cerf in terms of what your view is working as, a neuroscientist in the business school, and how you view this notion of mentorship and really bridging across different fields, and what the challenges and some of the opportunities with that are.
That's a lot. That's a big question. So I'll do my best to answer it quick. I also try to read now a lot of the chat questions and kind of get a sense of what everyone. So I'll try to compile everything in a really quick way. So indeed, neuroscience, speak in my field of research, looks a little bit at like the alignment of brains. So what happens when I communicate with you right now? How do we kind of align our brain waves, and does it mean that you understand me? So without going into a too technical level, I would say that there are some groups that tend to kind of see the world the same way, and they actually align themselves, and some that are not. And we can now easily characterize that. So using the tools of neuroscience, you can take two people, measure their brains while they look at a third thing, it's a content, and you can just say, me and Michal totally understood each other, but me and Miriam didn't understand each other, and here's what we need to do in order for Miriam to also be included. So we can now use tools for that. And those tools make it easier for people to kind of create this synchrony. But in a way, it's an excessive thing, because somehow most of us intuit that. Like, we kind of know when we see two people that they work together, and we know that it doesn't. So neuroscience is now catching up to the world of empathy and quantifying it, which is essential, and it's useful. And for academics like ourselves, it's really useful to be able to move from like, I felt good, to, yeah, here are the mechanisms in the brain that show us that you felt good. So it's very useful, and companies are interested in that. And I think at some point it's going to become part of everyone's reality. We're going to have tools that will allow us to find perfect matches and say, this person should be your mentor. And it will allow us to also debunk a lot of like problems that we have right now. Like, does the mentor need to be someone from your same gender, from the same age group, from the same race? Like, we kind of have all kinds of myths that we intuit, but now we can test them. So in that sense, I think neuroscience is opening this path. It's not going to be in any one future in the next couple of months. So those are people that are here, and based on the question they ask, I don't think that I would recommend you guys to go to a neuroscientist and have him or her look at your brain and tell you who should be the kind of perfect person for you, especially since you're changing and evolving. So it will be very momentarily, and so it will be kind of something you should know that exists. And when it becomes a commodity, you should definitely be part of it. And I promise I'm going to do the best job to make it accessible to everyone as a neuroscientist. If you ask me now to kind of refer to the question that you asked about, like kind of what are the traits of the mentors? What are the traits of the mentees? I'm going to now lump also the questions that I saw people asking, kind of how to recognize that it works and so on. I wrote while everyone spoke a list, and it's by no means exhaustive, and it's by no means something that I spent time thinking about, but I kind of wrote things that I wish someone told me when I was in the kind of audience. So here they are. I think that I definitely want people to take from that there's roles that are on the mentors and roles that are on the mentees, and it's a job of both parties to make sure that the relationship works. So it's not like that you find one and say, you're my mentor right now and that's it. Impart on me knowledge or make me, you have to keep working. And it's kind of true for, I think, couples. It's not that once you find your partner, that's it. Like you check, like now I have a husband or a wife, I'm good. It's a constant work. So in that sense, it's like every relationship. You have to keep working on it even when you're inside. So here are kind of my top advice that I came, and really, this is not academic. This is just me intuiting things, but I saw that people ask, sorry about that. So I think for mentors, I'm gonna do it in one sentence each, so I can move fast. For mentors, first thing, remember to ask the question, do you want my advice? I think some people as mentors think that, okay, if I'm the mentor right now, if I'm like, then that's it. Like I'm just now imparting knowledge, and it's obvious that like everything I say is golden. I think that it's a good reminder for mentors to ask every now and then, do you want my advice? Or how do you like to just kind of keep checking how to do it? 1, 2, I wrote, it's really useful, and it's true for a lot of to not just say what not to do, but also what to do. Like not to say this is bad, this is not really mentorship. If to say, okay, here's how to do it better, or here's how to, that is really useful too. I wrote really quickly. I'm gonna really one sentence each. I thought also another good for mentors, let your mentees make mistakes. I think that the idea, and that's I'm talking like a parent right now, the idea that the mentors kind of failed if the mentee made a mistake, that's not true. Like the point is that you want to make a mistake, you want to help them recover from the mistake faster, you want to help them recognize it's a mistake, but let someone make a mistake and kind of not just like cushion them and save them is really a useful one. I think that's really my personal view, and I think maybe someone would argue. I think it's useful to be personal. I think it's useful to not see this as just kind of a mechanical relationship, but also to know the person you interact with outside of the context. If it's like a mentorship in the context of, say, academic, I think my advice would be ask the person also about their life, know who they are, break this fourth wall that says like mentorship is only in one domain. I think like it's, if you have a holistic view of your mentee, I think you can help them more. Here are 4 for the mentees, and with that I'm going to shut up and I think we'll be done for the day. I think that Lauren said it, and I just echo that. I think it's really useful to have more than one mentor. I think to think, okay, I found my mentor, then I'm done with this. Now let's find. I think for every domain, for every problem, for every challenge, for every incident, you have to have at least one mentor, and you have many in your life. So you have multiple mentors, and sometimes more than one mentor for the same thing is really useful. Also, I think that it's an important job for the mentee to not just take the knowledge of the mentor. It's like, okay, you're my mentor, teach me the 5 things, but learn how they think. To kind of look at the mentor and say, okay, how would they approach? Because they're not going to be there for every problem and every event in your life. So if you kind of took from your mentor how they think about things, you will get more than just kind of the answer. Third one, I wrote, and it came in the question, so I'm just answering that. The person doesn't have to be older than you. Like this notion of Yoda that I alluded earlier is really kind of, it's just, we grew up on Yoda. So we think, okay, it must have pointy ears, small, and really be good with the lightsaber. They could be younger than you. I think that Michal spoke about that in the context of like a technical skill. It's really like age should not be the dominant factor in that, and I think that that's really critical. I think it's useful in an interaction between mentor and mentee to have an agenda that's on the mentee, to come and say, here's what I need, rather than just like impart knowledge on me. I wrote 2 more things, but then I'm going to shut up. One is that the job of the mentee is not to duplicate the mentor. It's not like to say, okay, now that I see how they do, then I do the same thing. It's to kind of take what they do and take a spin on that, which is bringing you. And the last one, and that's maybe the one that I think is often overlooked, is remember that your mentors also have flaws and recognize the limitations. the fact that they're your mentors doesn't mean that they know everything on everything. They know on one thing enough to help you, but that's not kind of a reason for you to say, okay, like my mentor, I should dress like her, and I should also handle my relationship like her. They might be great in one thing and awful in others. And I think that it's useful to remember what they're good at. I think Yoda had a pretty terrible relationship with the English language. So he didn't know how to speak well. He always reversed that. With that, I'm going to shut up and let everyone else chime in.
No, I think that was, thank you. It was a real whirlwind of going through all the questions and really appreciate it. I think also the focus on things that maybe we might not necessarily have the tendency to emphasize, you know, the vulnerability of asking for help, the idea of learning from mistakes, the idea of recognizing when our mentors don't necessarily have the answer and learning from their limitations as well. And the sort of fundamental, you know, the recognizing humanity and the mistakes that we're all kind of learning together, and the fact that these relationships are not necessarily quite as hierarchical as they might seem. And I think, unfortunately, we're really running out of time, but I'd like to give the rest of our panelists a minute to have closing remarks. So with that, maybe I'll go to Michal, see if you have anything you want to add to this.
I'll add a very personal note that my dear cousin, Amir Axel, that you mentioned, Miriam, your father, and Deborah's husband, was my mentor, and so there's a intergenerational mentorship happening in this. So this session is very dear and special to me, and I'm happy to be here and be able to experience it with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Should we move to Lauren for any closing remarks?
I will add, I had a very close mentor who just passed away about 2 months ago. And so I would just urge all of you, you know, this sense of sort of keeping that mentor alive. Someone made a joke of sort of like, you know, what would this person do? And sort of using that as a model to approach their own life, whether that's personal, professional, or for their mentoring. And the other thing I would say would just be, you know, to keep in touch with them, to keep them close, and to cherish, you know, what they can offer throughout those different stages of life, whether it is personal or professional. And thanks. I just want to thank the organizers and the ESL so much for this opportunity. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Should we go to Mr. Cohen for closing remarks?
Certainly. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure and honor to be part of this first international conference on STEMs, and I'm so honored that you know that both Deborah and Miriam have asked me to be part of this, and I'm looking forward to extend this mentorship, right? This role model, not only just among the population here in Low, but within I think the next few years. So I'm looking forward to, and particularly wanted to partner with Dr. Fagni, the idea of this virtual connectivity, right? The Mekong Merrimack River collaboration, right? Where we can do this exchange program. A high school student can go to Cambodia in the summer, August and then in September, and go study there and learn their Khmer language, their culture, but at the same time teaching English as well as other subject to the to the people in Cambodia, and of course get people from Cambodia to come and continue their higher education here in America, whether it's at University of Massachusetts Law or MIT's or Northeastern or Harvard's, or we have so many great colleges and university here. That idea of exchange, that idea of connectivity, by virtue that our people again would benefit not only just within local area, but but across the continent. And this is something that I dream of, want to see that happen, established in the future. And I'm looking forward to that kind of partnership, to that kind of relationship, to enable this idea, to become a reality in the near future. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you for allowing me to be part of this this conference.
Thank you. And Una, could we have a final closing remark from you?
Of course. Of course, and I welcome all those opportunities. And thank you, Dr. Kunam. And it's really this sort of event today is demonstrates how connected we are and how it can lead to all sorts of opportunities. So, as I said before, mentoring for me has made an enormous difference in my life. But I want that for everybody. It should not be a matter of luck that you came across the right person to influence your life. Everyone should have that person. So I'm hoping STEM Sisters can play a part in that. And in 2021, we are just at the planning stages now, but I would like to add that we recently won an award called the Girls in STEM Award from Juniper Networks in the States, who are a sponsor of the World Robot Olympiad. So our program coming in 2021 is a combination of promoting robotics to girls, mentoring them to enter the World Robot Olympiad and giving them the soft skills and technical skills for success. And I will also add that the theme of the World Robot Olympiad this year is clean energy. So it's a combination of mentoring, STEM and environmental education all wrapped up in one program. So we have our work cut out for us, but we are excited about it. So thank you to the organizers and to Miriam and Deborah for inviting me today, and to the rest of the panel. It was an honor to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's been great, and I wish we had more time. I'm seeing that in the chat there is a new link to continue questions, and I think this would be. I mean, we're hoping to use this as a jumping off point for questions and answers and conversations, and really seeing this as a conversation starter. So as Lauren had said, please, again, I mean, we please do reach out to us with anything, questions, ideas for future collaboration events, whatever it is. And I think there's a really nice comment at the end of the chat that mentoring is in this sort of holistic idea. It's fulfillment, and it allows us to grow continuously, both personally and professionally. And I think that really kind of encompasses the ideas that we've talked about today, that mentoring takes many forms. There's a lot of work. It can be like a relationship where, you really have to think about the sort of maintaining this relationship and helping people grow. And I guess we appreciate all of you, the audience members and our panelists and the organizers for putting this together.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Be safe and well. Be safe and well.
Yeah,
Good.
so thank you so much for both question and answer, and very, very interesting discussion on effective mentorings. I'm pretty sure that this panel discussion would be useful for our audience. So because of time constraint, we could not answer all questions have been dropped in the chat box. And the rest question would be answered in the forum. Thank you so much, our panelists, as well as moderator of the panel discussion. Now, here's come the end of the panel discussion. So thank you so much for your participation. Thank you.